Hi, how are you today? So I'm going to share another story with you, like some of the previous ones I shared earlier. And this is called When Jessie Comes Across the Sea. It is also like the books I read to you, All the Places to Love and When I Was Young in the Mountains, and that it has a lot to do with family and being together with family. In this story, when Jessie comes across the sea, the first thing we're going to notice how her family has just sacrificed so much for her to come to America, a place of safety for her. During this time, for people in Europe, there was like a lot of prejudiced thinking. And so there were unfair laws against certain groups of people, and it made it just really hard for them to exist, to work, to get food, and just have basic freedoms like voting. And so this is just a sad part of history throughout time with all different people, anyone that someone would consider different from them, and they would treat them this way. So hopefully over time, humans will stop mistreating one another and realize that we are all the same in our hearts and we need to love and respect each other. So this is one of my favorite stories. I absolutely love the picture of the Statue of Liberty. When I have gone on a couple of trips there myself, that has been my favorite part, is to be able to get into a boat and see this beautiful, beautiful scene and just imagine what people have felt the first time they saw Statue of Liberty when coming here to receive freedom. So I just think that and start a new life, and I just think that's just such a beautiful thing. So we're going to see Jessie's journey from across the sea into America, and then her journey while she's in America. And I just hope that you enjoy this story as much as I do and get benefit from it, of looking at other points of view. This story is written by Amy Hest and illustrated by P.J. Lynch. Once, in a poor village far from here, there was a very small house with a slanting roof inside, where 2 chairs, 2 narrow beds, and a table with fine lace cloth. A pot-belly stove warmed the place in winter and warmed thin soup. Jessie lived in that house with grandmother. They had 1 skinny cow, Miss Minnie, and a patch of garden. Carrots came up here and there, and sometimes a potato. Long ago, when Jessie was a baby, her parents died. Jessie kept her mother's wedding band, though, in a tiny silver box with a tiny lace lining. From time to time, she tried it on. What do you think she tried it on? Maybe to feel close to her mom? In the morning, when the village boys went to the rabbi for lessons, Jessie went too. Grandmother insisted. At night, after supper, Jessie read out loud. She practiced her letters by the fire. Grandmother sewed lace. The coins she earned were dropped in a jar on the table. Now you read, Grandmother, and copy my good letters. Jessie liked being teacher. Me? Learn to read and write? Grandmother scoffed. Sometimes you never know. You may want to read some things, Jessie said. You may want to write. Grandmother showed Jessie how to sew lace. But Jessie stuck herself often. Why do I have to learn? She cried. Sometimes you never know. You may want to sew some things, Grandmother answered. You may want to earn some money. So they both had to learn new and different things, right? technical difficulties. One evening toward the end of summer, the rabbi called the people of the village to the synagogue. "The news from America is sad," said the rabbi. "My good brother Mordecai has left this world." The villagers sighed and shook their heads. "Rest in peace," they said. "Shortly before he died, my Mordecai sent me a ticket to America." The rabbi paused. "He wanted me to join him there." "America, the promised land," the voices rose as one. "But alas," the rabbi sighed, "I am the rabbi. How do I leave this village? How do I quit my people?" He threw up his hands. "Someone else must go in my place, someone of my choosing." So you hear the words synagogue, rabbi, and Hebrew school. And so this is a Jewish village. Later that night, many villagers came to the rabbi's house. "Rabbi, listen to reason. I must go to America, for I am strong." "Rabbi, listen to good sense. I must go to America, for I am smart." "Rabbi, listen to logic. I must go to America, for I am brave." The rabbi listened. "How they boast and brag," he thought. "Tonight I shall seek guidance from the Almighty," he told the villagers. "You go home. Tomorrow I will choose." I'm going to show you the whole picture before I turn it back. Early the next morning, Jessie and grandmother had a caller. "I have decided," announced the rabbi. "Jessie will go to America. My brother's widow has a dress shop in New York City. Her name is Kay, and Jessie can help with the sewing. She will comfort the good lady." Jessie's hands started to shake. "America? So far away from grandmother?" She bit her lip, for she must not cry in front of the rabbi. "Don't make me go," she thought. "You know best," grandmother spoke quietly to the rabbi. Oh, but her heart was breaking. Dear Jessie, alone on a ship to America? Grandmother's heart said one thing, but her head said another. Jessie must go. It's a picture. My turn. Grandmother waving goodbye. A week passed quickly, then 2 more, as grandmother prepared Jessie for her journey. The morning the ship was to sail, it rained so hard that there was no telling where the sky met the sea. America, good things await you there, grandmother had promised. Jessie stood at the rail, holding her hat against the wind and the rain, and at her feet was a small trunk, packed with a few simple clothes and layers of lace. In Jessie's pocket was the tiny silver box with a tiny lace lining, but her mother's wedding band was not inside. Keep it safe for me, grandmother, she had whispered as they kissed goodbye. Grandmother, she called, but the boat slipped away from the dock, then into the channel and on toward the sea. Umbrellas faded in the mist. Rain pelted Jessie's face. It slid down the back of her collar. Later, she sat on her trunk and cried. Passengers pitied the girl with the auburn hair and ginger-colored freckles. But what could they do, crammed together and fearful, speaking strange languages, huddling close to keep warm? What could they do for Jessie? The ship sailed west for many days. At first, it was stormy. Jessie lay curled on a mat, too ill to eat, too ill to sleep. She thought about grandmother in the hut with the slanting roof, eating her soup alone. On the fourth morning, the sun came up and the passengers dried out. They played cards and sang, and sometimes they argued, but mostly they talked, swapping stories and dreams. Dreams of America, where the streets were paved with gold. America, land of plenty. Jessie began sewing to pass the time. Just to touch the soft lace was like touching grandmother again. A little girl with almond eyes climbed on Jessie's lap. They sang and played finger games. Then Jessie sewed lace, a tiny heart pocket for the girl's plain dress. Miss Almond Eyes danced. An old woman came along in a tattered coat. Jessie sewed lace, a collar, and cuffs, and soon the coat was grand. Here's the picture of Jessie sewing lace. Grandmother said it might come in handy, right? A boy named Lou, he was a shoemaker's son, watched Jessie sew lace. "How do you do?" he asked, tipping his hat. Jessie smiled. Lou took patches of leather from his splintered crate. He stitched shoes for a baby who cried when his mother put them on his fat baby feet. This time Jessie laughed. Later, Lou and Jessie walked on the deck and talked. They shared black bread as the ship rolled and pitched in the wide, wide sea. On a fine fall day, they sailed past the Statue of Liberty. America! No one swapped stories or argued. Babies hushed. Even the oldest passengers and the most seasick stood against the rail. America! And there it was. New York City with those tall, tall buildings that touched the sky. Grandmother, Jessie thought. If only you could see what I see now. The ship docked at Ellis Island, then papers. Wait online. Inspections, wait online. Papers, wait online. Questions. What is your name? Jessie. What is your age? 13. Are you married? No. What is your occupation? I sew lace. Can you read and write? Yes. Are you ill? No. Jessie! A woman with bright hair burst through the crowd. You may call me Cousin Kay. She had a soft, sweet voice and gave Jessie a hug. Where is Lou? Jessie wondered as Cousin Kay talked on. I forgot to say goodbye. Cousin Kay lived on the Lower East Side. Her house was 3 flights up. There was a bathtub in the kitchen and a dress shop in the parlor. Dear grandmother, I miss you. Cousin Kay takes me all around the city. I wish you could see the push carts and shops and the trolleys speeding by, but there are too many people in America and the streets are not gold. There are no cows. Cousin Kay bought me a pickle from a barrel. Tomorrow I begin to sew for her. Love, Jessie. Jessie chose the yellow chair near the window in the parlor. The light was good for sewing there, and she could see the street. Best of all, Jessie liked to sew lace, a collar, cuffs, a delicate sash. Every Friday, Cousin Kay gave 3 coins to Jessie, who dropped all 3 in a jar. Who else would also save their money from sewing? Grandmother, right? And so we see now grandmother needed to know how to read so she can read Jessie's letters, and Jessie needed to know how to sew so that she could make money. So they were both absolutely right. One afternoon, just for the fun of it, Jessie pinned a lace bodice to a plain white dress on a cutting board. She pinned lace to the sleeves. What a beautiful bride's dress that would be, said Cousin Kay. Miss Emily Levy was browsing in the shop that very day. Well, I'm getting married. Can this dress be for me? The wedding dress was lovely, so lovely that Emily's cousin, Miss Rachel Cox, wanted one just like it for her wedding day. Before long, brides were filling up Cousin Kay's parlor. So knowing how to sew lace is really paying off for these ladies, right? You must go to school, said Cousin Kay one day. Everyone in America speaks English. My Jessie will speak it too. So in the morning, Jessie went to school. A, apple. B, boy. C, carrot. This English was hard. Dear grandmother, I miss you more than ever. There's a library here with rows of books. I want to read them all. On Sundays, I take long walks on city streets and don't get lost anymore. There are flowers in the parks. Love, Jessie. So it wasn't that Jessie couldn't read or write. We know that she could. It's just it was in a different language. So she spoke and read Hebrew. But in America, we speak and read English. So she not only had to go to a whole new world, but had to learn to speak and write a whole new language at age, well, we know she came at 13, so we know she was older than 13 before she went to school to learn this. And I can imagine how difficult it was to learn a whole new language plus all new customs and streets and roads and people. A lot has changed for Jessie. Jessie learned more and more English. She sewed beautiful lace. And so 3 years passed. She was a young lady now, 16. On an icy cold Sunday in March, Jessie walked up Fifth Avenue, then into the park where the trees were covered with new snow. Sleds crisscrossed the hills. Jessie sat on a bench and watched a young man as the wind whipped up and blew off his hat. Jessie laughed out loud. The young man turned. Lou! She couldn't believe her eyes. Lou, her friend from the ship. Jessie waved, and Lou, the shoemaker's son, waved back. He would have tipped his hat, but it was far away. The next Sunday, they met again on the bench in the park, and the Sunday after that. There's Lou. Dear grandmother, I have a special friend. He makes good, strong shoes from patches of leather. His name is Lou. You will like him, grandmother, I promise. Love, Jessie. One evening, Jessie met Lou's parents, his brother and his 3 sisters. She brought a basket of bread with lace cloth. The 2 littlest sisters cried when she left. Marry me, asked Lou on the stairs outside his house. Soon, Jessie smiled and held his hand. Days passed and weeks. Jessie sewed lace early and late. Months went by. Jessie sewed, and then one day the jar was filled with coins. She brought it to a man who sold tickets to America. I need a ticket for grandmother, she said. Every day, Jessie rushed down 3 flights of stairs to the mailbox. The letter came finally on a breezy day. The handwriting was shaky, but Jessie knew her grandmother had written every word herself. Dear Jessie, I sewed the ticket to the lining of my coat. I say goodbye to this village. The rabbi is taking Miss Minnie, your loving grandmother. The morning her ship arrived in New York Harbor, it rained so hard there was no telling where the sky met the sea. Grandmother was older than Jessie remembered and much more frail. They held each other for a long time. I've brought something for you, Grandmother whispered, from across the sea. With that, she slipped Jessie's mother's wedding band into Jessie's hand. Then they went home, for there was going to be a wedding. The end. So I hope that you enjoyed this beautiful story, written again by Amy Hest, about a family who had to make really hard decisions about what was best for them. But I think it's true, wherever there is love, wherever there is peace and harmony and joy and togetherness, there's still family and there is still home. And I hope that you find this kind of wonderful joy with your family as well. And we will read together soon. Talk to you later, Miss Christie. Bye-bye, guys.